So today we're talking about Userkaf pyramid, and we both we have experience with this pyramid, and it's not too many people was inside pyramid. So I want you to share your experience with Userkaf pyramid, how you get in, and what did you see inside, and what impression you have about it.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the ISIDA Project mission into the Pyramid of Userkaf was 2013?
We started 2012. Yes, I guess 2012 or 2013.
Yeah. So we were the first people to
Yep.
be granted access into the Pyramid of Userkaf since the ISIDA Project team members went in 2013. So
And
basically, your team and my wife and I are the only people that have been in there in the past decade. And very few people know about this structure, and even less people are interested in doing research on it. But in my opinion, it's one of the most fascinating structures in Egypt. And there are so many small details that we could sit here and analyze about that structure that are incredibly significant to understanding the overall picture of what was happening in Egypt. So it's a very, very special place. And so in terms of how we got access to it, if you want to access an off limits site, for example, the pyramid complex at Abusir, you have to get something called a special permission access from the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. So my wife and I applied. I work with a local tour company that does all the hosting for like Patricia's tours and Yusuf's tours, and basically everybody that I know in the Egyptian tourism industry works through the same tour company that I work with. So we had our tour company apply for and arrange special permission access into the Pyramid of Abusir and into the Pyramid of Userkaf, and we got them to unlock the doors for us. And when you get special permission access, you get 2 hours. That's the going rate for special permission, whether it be Osiris shaft is a special permission, private entry into the Great Pyramid, special permission, the Osirion. All of these are done via special permission in Egypt. And that was 2023 when my wife and I did that.
yeah, so tell me please your impression when you got in, how it was inside and everything with details. What did you expect at first? And when you got in, what was your impression?
Well, so thanks to the ISIDA Project, I had done a pretty significant amount of research ahead of time. I saw the initial footage from there. I looked at all the pictures and the diagrams that the team had put together. And for the people that are watching that aren't familiar with the ISIDA Project, the ISIDA Project is a group of independent researchers across the world. And in my opinion, it is one of the most prolific ancient structure and ancient artifact research organizations in the world. It is highly reputable and respected within not only the conventional archaeological community, but also in the alternative ancient history community in general. For example, there is a fantastic researcher by the name of Keith Hamilton who has
Yeah.
done an exceptional, extensive series of layman's guides on all of the pyramids. And he often references the ISIDA Project's original work from this research mission that they conducted from around 2010 to 2013. And the ISIDA Project visited and got access into more sites in Egypt than anyone else that I have ever even heard of. It is an absolutely remarkable undertaking what they were able to accomplish during this mission. And Guy was a member of this original research expedition. So hats off, Guy. Again, I have to give you guys a round of applause and a sincere point of recognition for what you were able to accomplish, because it has laid the foundation for so many other projects that have built upon the exceptional research that was conducted by the ISIDA Project. So you guys really deserve the congratulations and all of the recognition for what you did during that time.
Yeah, it was long time ago.
Hopefully you'll all be back here again soon so we can I've been working with, some various members on the ISIDA Project team for several years now, and I'm hoping that one day we'll all be able to meet together here again in Egypt and actually do some on-site research, which would be very exciting. So going back to your original question, I was fairly prepared when I was, getting ready to go inside the Pyramid of Userkaf. So starting on the outside, there were a couple of things that I was particularly interested in researching regarding the Eastern Temple and the Southern Temple. So in the Eastern Temple, they refer to this structure as an offering temple, which is also often the nomenclature used for some of these temple structures that are adjacent to the main pyramid itself. And there is a black granite conduit system. And by conduit, I mean a channel or a little housing carved into stone coming out of this Eastern temple. And I had done a lot of research on a similar system that was discovered at the Pyramid of Niuserre in Abusir. The one in Abusir is carved from red quartzite, and it flows underneath the black basalt floor of the Eastern temple and into this large collection bowl, which is also made out of red quartzite. An absolutely spectacular artifact. And the conventional explanation for these things is that they're for water drainage, which I highly disagree with that conclusion, because you don't have a water drain pipe connecting into the side of a pyramid temple. That doesn't really make sense from a logistics or engineering standpoint. So that was the first thing of interest, was this conduit carved out of black granite sticking into the side of the pyramid structure at Userkaf.
Yeah, very many where. Many places you can see with water pipes.
Yep. And so they also found these things at the Pyramid of Saqqara. There is a network of conduits and channels that run
Yeah.
underneath the paving of the temple. And these were actually documented to have been originally lined with copper pipes. So it's subject for some interpretation whether the rest of these channels actually may have originally had copper pipes. We don't know for sure, but the ones in Saqqara are documented to have copper pipes in them.
No, so in Pyramid of Saqqara, this water pipe goes down with this road toward the Voli
Yep.
Temple. It's
Yep.
a long structure.
Yes, yeah, it runs all the way from the Eastern Temple down the causeway into the Nile River Valley Temple, and it's a spectacular engineering feat.
I
No, go ahead.
think we have, in the Pyramid of Saqqara, we have a lot of marks of copper. I
Yes.
think that's why we say it was copper pipes. But at real, we were trying to work with copper tools with this granite. That's why it's everywhere leftover of copper.
Yes.
It's not only at these pipes. If you see these stelas and where Sakura names is printed, it's also all green. Every part has leftover of copper.
Yeah, yeah, and what you're referring to is the green copper oxide that was
Yes,
left from
yes,
the
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, that was left from those copper inlays. So what he's referring to is that on some of these carved hieroglyphs in granite, they were originally inlaid with copper, where there was a piece of copper metal stuck into the hieroglyphic depiction. And when the copper was removed, it left some green copper oxide, which is evidence that there was originally metal inlaid in these structures.
And I think it was different way because copper does not leave marks if it just was sitting on where. You can see these leftovers when people working with tools. When you
Oh, so you
scratching
you
the
think
grain.
you think the copper oxide is from the actual carving process?
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay, interesting.
Definitely, because that's why you can see different technologies. How
Yeah.
Stella itself was made, it does not have this copper oxide, but hieroglyph signs inside, you can see how we were working on it.
Okay, interesting. So there's also, I don't know if you've noticed, but on at the Great Pyramid of Giza, in the black basalt paving of the Eastern Temple, there are some of those saw blade cuts in the black basalt where you can see the striations of the saw blade. And I give credit to Yusuf Awian for pointing out that they've also found this green copper oxide in these saw blade cuts. And I actually did an episode on my channel a while back where they did a chemical analysis of some of the material that was found in these saw blade cuts. And the green copper, so let me clarify something. There's a big myth within the ancient history community that the Egyptians were using pure copper. That's not correct. The chemical analysis has shown that it's something called arsenical copper, which is known as
Yes.
arsenical bronze in the ancient world. It's 90% copper and about 10% arsenic, which is an alloy of copper and arsenic that creates a much more durable and castable metal alloy. So the blade is not pure copper. It's an alloy of two different metals that completely changes the property of the metal and makes it much better of a cutting tool than just pure copper. And they also discovered tiny micro fragments of ilmenite and corundum, which was the abrasive cutting material that was being poured as a slurry into the cutting surface. So they discovered ilmenite is titanium oxide, and corundum is the same mineral that's in ruby, the second the
Yes,
second
yes,
hardest
yes.
the second hardest mineral on the planet next to diamond. So they do know for sure that they were using arsenical copper saw blades and a ilmenite, corundum, and various other minerals in an abrasive slurry to facilitate the cutting process. So that's interesting that it. So you know the lintel beam at the Pyramid of Sahura, the one with the green copper.
Yeah.
That's an interesting interpretation that the green was from, because I've always heard from our local guides. You know, there's always a local guide that comes out there with you. They always say that there was copper, metal as an inlay on the hieroglyph. So that's the first time I've heard the interpretation that it could have been from the tools.
No, we don't know what to say because we took parts, we took little pieces of all this stuff, and
Yep.
we made analysis. What is it and where is it? And when we're talking about sewing, even with this, I think what you say, these stones, we don't have no marks from copper. When the surface was solid, so how we was sewing, we don't know.
Right. So going back to the Pyramid of Userkaf, another interesting factor is the black basalt southern temple, which the configuration of the Pyramid of Userkaf is a little bit unique in Egypt. Usually we see temples on the eastern side. Userkaf has the primary temple on the southern side of the structure, which is a little bit different from everything else that we see in Egypt. And there are only a handful of other structures in Egypt that have this black basalt paving: the Eastern Temple of the Great Pyramid, the Pyramid of Niuserre in Abusir, and the
Yeah.
Pyramid of Userkaf. There's a few other small structures that appear that it might have some black basalt, but it's not as common as people might think to use that black basalt. So I was very interested in studying the configuration of that black basalt floor.
Tell me please about inside structure of Userkaf pyramid and about this sarcophagus. It has a broken sarcophagus inside, like in Mastabo of Shepseskaf. So
Yeah.
I wonder how it looks.
So for the people that are watching that aren't familiar with the inside of the pyramid, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it perfectly.
Fantastic. So here's a good diagram
Yeah,
from Keith Hamilton's
yeah,
Layman's Guide to the Pyramid of Userkaf. So you go down through the descending passage, you cross through a small vestibule area, and you climb over the portcullis system. And
yeah,
all of this is supported with red granite. Here, when you see the white, those are limestone masonry blocks, and the red are red granite. Then you take a left and you go into this ancillary, what they call magazine chamber.
Yeah.
And this is a chamber that is completely excavated from the bedrock. And for some reason, all of the stones that originally cased this bedrock chamber, it was originally completely finished with limestone blocks, but they've taken all of the blocks off of the walls, and nobody knows exactly what happened to them. But that was one thing that I found to be very unusual, is that at some point in history, the masonry from inside of this chamber was completely disassembled and removed from the structure.
Oh, because it was easier when to cut new stone blocks. We were using it for our construction. That's it.
Yep. And so the tough thing is, you can take them out from the inside, but then you have to haul them out of the pyramid itself, which is, it's certainly no easy task to be hauling these stones out of there. But after you leave the magazine chamber, you go into the main burial chamber, and this is the artifact that we're referring to here, which is this. Well, originally it was a container, or a sarcophagus, a rectangular container. And in my opinion, this is a very unusual material. And we have a chemical analysis data and microscopy analysis of this stone. And it has been determined to be a blue sandstone material. So in some of the other pyramids at the Saqqara complex, we have a material called black greywacke,
Yeah.
which is inside the Pyramid of Unis and inside the Pyramid of Teti. And greywacke is it's a sandstone type of geology. This is a very similar chemical composition, but it's blue. Anybody who takes a look at this, and if you watch this coming Sunday on my channel, you'll be able to see footage from inside of this chamber when we're looking at this stone. It's a blue sandstone. And as far as I know, there are only 2 other structures in Egypt where this blue sandstone material has been discovered. Again, all courtesy of the ISIDA Project. Guy, I'm sure you remember, it's the headless pyramid.
Yeah.
And then there's also one fragment of this blue material out in front of the mastaba, or temple of Ptah in Abusir. There's a big rectangle piece of this blue sandstone that's just sitting in the middle of the temple, and it's completely out of place. Nobody knows where it came from or why it's there. It's just this big long rectangle of this same blue sandstone material at the temple of Ptah.
No, it's and the same sarcophagus in Mastaba of Shepseskaf.
Okay, with the same blue material.
Oh, it's I should not say it blue. It's like gray, but it looks blue. Yeah, it looks blue.
Yeah. No, this is
And
one of the
very
most.
similar. It's a completely different structures with Pyramid of Userkaf and Mastaba of Shepseskaf. It's completely different structures. Mastaba of Shepseskaf has a granite structure inside. All rooms are granite and looks like Assyrian temple, very old. But sarcophagus with container is the same. So I don't know. That's why I'm asking you about this sarcophagus. I was in Mastaba of Shepseskaf like first after Jacquier, after 20s, after 100 years. So, and it's still there, and it's the same quality and same stone.
So if anyone were to Google blue
This one.
sandstone, the first thing you will, oh, that's a,
You can see the color.
yeah. So if anyone Googles blue sandstone, the first thing you'll find is that blue sandstone is an artificial stone, that it's man-made. Now, I highly disagree with the idea of geopolymer being used in Egypt.
No, of course not. It's original stone. It's
Yeah, it's
natural stone.
real stone. Right, right. Now, I do think, and I think that some of the team members of the ISIDA project agree on this, that in South America, there is some evidence of artificial stone, like the H blocks at
Yes,
the Pumapunku um,
andesite. It's andesite. It's different kind of
andesite.
stone.
Right. Yeah, yeah. But in Egypt, quarrying was extensively done in Egypt, and there's so much evidence. They know where the quarries are. They've matched the geology and the structure to the exact quarry locations. A lot of people talk about this idea of geopolymer in Egypt, and I really disagree with that. It's natural stone, but the tricky thing is trying to find out where this. Again, I think it looks blue in Userkaf. I mean, we picked up those fragments of stone, and it's microcrystalline quartz. Like the fragments of quartz that are inside of this material are compared to granite, for example, where granite has relatively large chunks of quartz. This
Yeah,
blue sandstone material in Userkaf, I mean, it's micro fragments of quartz that are absolutely spectacular. It also has sort of veins of maybe copper running through it, maybe a copper type. There's like these orange bands running through it. And I think the blue color is coming from cobalt mineralization, which would give it that blue tint. So it's an absolutely beautiful piece of stone. It's unlike anything else. And the finish on this. So have you been inside the what is it? Is it El Lahoun with the
yes,
underground?
El Lahun.
Yeah, with the sarcophagus that has the slant to it.
Yes, yes, it's Senusert the second in El Lahun. Also, I
Yeah,
was first who was there after
yeah,
100 years. After Petrie discovered and excavated, and after it was closed. And
yep.
I was there in 2013 at this structure. Yeah,
So
I
the
know. Archaeology, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, so in my opinion, that sarcophagus inside or underneath the El Lahoun pyramid structure is one of the finest examples of high precision masonry in Egypt. It is an absolutely spectacular piece. But from what I can see from this sarcophagus or container inside the Pyramid of Userkaf, it is of similar quality of masonry to the container at the Pyramid of El Lahoun. It is an amazing artifact.
I think it's way better quality. And in Lahun, you can see a lot of like mistakes how it was made. And these two pieces in user cuff and Sheps's cuff were absolutely perfect.
Have you seen the before and recent pictures of the headless pyramid in Saqqara?
No, I did not see.
So
I,
when your team was there, the sarcophagus or container was still basically completely exposed. I saw
yeah,
some recent.
maybe I just don't remember because it wasn't in my interests. I have few spots what I researched, so of
Yeah.
course I was there, but I don't remember sarcophagus itself.
So I saw some recent pictures from a couple of years ago, and only the edges are sticking out anymore. It's all been completely reburied in sand. So
Hmm.
unfortunately, that's a very frequent occurrence here in Egypt. If it's not a main tourist site, so when I say main tourist site, we're talking about the Giza Plateau and Saqqara
Yeah,
are the two main pyramid sites where tourists actually go, and those are the areas that are bringing in all the money in
of
terms of the
course.
tourist dollars. And a lot of these structures that we've been talking about today are not accessible to the public. Abusir is not accessible to the public. The Userkaf pyramid, the headless pyramid, none of these sites are publicly accessible tourist sites. So there's not a lot of money being spent on the maintenance or, the excavation or cleaning up the trash or whatever it is. So a lot of these things, they excavated them in the early 1900s, and they've literally just been sitting there getting reburied in sand
Yes, yes,
until,
yes, and it's really fast,
yeah.
and
So I
nothing
will
to
say
do with it.
on
We
the
were
on the
trying to open Abusir for public for many years ago. I don't know how many, maybe 12 or 13 years we're talking about it, and we
Yep.
still did not open it.
So I have some news from my tour company, and they said that as of February 2026, the Abusir complex should be open for public visits. And that will be a huge change for that site, because before it's only accessible via special permission. So if they do actually open that to the public, I love the Abusir complex. It's a fascinating site. There's lots of interesting details out there regarding the stonework. There's saw blade cuts, there's circular tube drills. There's a whole vast array of different types of geology. You have black basalt, red granite, red quartzite, alabaster, limestone. Basically, all of the different type of geology is there at the site. There's conduit systems, and there's these big collection bowls, and all of these very, very interesting. So you guys actually got a chance to go inside the Pyramid of Sahure.
Yes, I was there many times in Abusir. I was looking many times. With pipe structure also in this temple of Niuserre, the Sun Temple of
Yes, yeah.
Niuserre.
Now, yep,
It
yep.
has these round sinks with,
Yeah, the collection bowl, correct.
yeah.
Yeah, so in my opinion, that sarcophagus inside or underneath the El Lahoun pyramid structure is one of the finest examples of high precision masonry in Egypt. It is an absolutely spectacular piece. But from what I can see from this sarcophagus or container inside the Pyramid of Userkaf, it is of similar quality of masonry to the container at the Pyramid of El Lahoun. It is an amazing artifact.
I think it's way better quality. And in Lahoun, you can see a lot of mistakes how it was made. And these two pieces in Userkaf and Shepseskaf were absolutely perfect.
Have you seen the before and recent pictures of the headless pyramid in Saqqara?
No, I did not see.
So when your team was there, the sarcophagus or container was still basically completely exposed.
Maybe I just don't remember because it wasn't in my interests. I have few spots what I researched, so of
Yeah.
course I was there, but I don't remember sarcophagus itself.
So I saw some recent pictures from a couple of years ago, and only the edges are sticking out anymore. It's all been completely reburied in sand. So unfortunately, that's a very frequent occurrence here in Egypt if it's not a main tourist site. So when I say main tourist site, we're talking about the Giza Plateau and Saqqara
Yeah,
are the two main pyramid sites where tourists actually go, and those are the areas that are bringing in all the money in
of
terms of the,
course.
in terms of the tourist dollars. And a lot of these structures that we've been talking about today are not accessible to the public. Abusir is not accessible to the public. The Userkaf pyramid, the headless pyramid, none of these sites are publicly accessible tourist sites. So there's not a lot of money being spent on the maintenance or the excavation or cleaning up the trash or whatever it is. So a lot of these things.
Hi guys, we love Egypt so much and we're all here. So like and subscribe our channel. We're gonna show you more and more. And thank you for your support. It's very important for us. We can't work without you, and we do more and more beautiful stuff for you.
They excavated them in the early 1900s, and they've literally just been sitting there getting reburied in sand
Yes, yes,
until,
yes, and it's really fast, you know,
yeah.
and
So I
nothing
will
to
say
do with it.
on
We
the,
were trying to open Abusir for public for many years ago. I don't know how many, maybe 12 or 13 years we're talking about it, and we
yep.
still did not open it.
So I have some news from my tour company, and they said that as of February 2026, the Abusir complex should be open for public visits. And that will be a huge change for that site, because before it's only accessible via special permission. So if they do actually open that to the public, I love the Abusir complex. It's a fascinating site. There's lots of interesting details out there regarding the stonework. There's saw blade cuts, there's circular tube drills. There's a whole vast array of different types of geology. You have black basalt, red granite, red quartzite, alabaster, limestone. Basically all of the different type of geology is there at the site. You know, there's conduit systems, and there's these big collection bowls, and all of these very, very interesting. So you guys actually got a chance to go inside the Pyramid of Sahure.
Yes, I was there many times in Abusir. I was looking many times. You know, with pipe structure also in this Temple of Niuserre, the Sun Temple of
Yes, yeah.
Niuserre.
Now, yep,
It
yep.
has this round sinks with
Yeah, the collection bowl, correct.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it has a lot of pipes too. I don't know why. Maybe it really was really rainy at this time. We don't know.
So my theory, I don't know how familiar you are with my work, but I think they're for collection of chemicals.
But where were traces of these chemicals?
So we've actually, very interesting point. So thank you again to the ISIDA Project. So we have some chemical analysis data of, for example, the staining inside of the Red Pyramid, which is
Yes.
absolutely fascinating. And for anyone that's interested, I have an entire series on my channel of a 3-part breakdown of the chemical analysis of this material that is seeping out of the stone from inside the chambers of the Red Pyramid, which is very unusual.
Pyramid stairs.
Yeah, the tiers of the pyramid, right? Yeah. So everybody says it's the most unfortunate. Well, it's a lie that everyone says this staining is from the bats. And the first time I went in there, I heard that story, and I was looking around at the walls, and I was like, man, there's no way that this is from the bats. That is
No,
nonsense.
absolutely.
And now, you know, after many years, we finally have this chemical analysis data that conclusively proves. So the staining inside the Red Pyramid is a variety of different metals. It's predominantly iron oxide. The second highest concentration is strontium oxides. And then there's
Yeah.
other things like nickel, copper, lead, zinc. There's a whole vast array of micro element composition to this, but it's metal particles on the inside of the Red Pyramid that are seeping out of this stone. The Red Pyramid of Dashur uses a very unique type of limestone that is very, very high in concentration of metal oxides. It's red color because of all the iron in this stone. So I would love, unfortunately, we don't have any chemical analysis data. I would love to one day be able to go dig out that trench in Niuserre and clear
Yeah.
a bunch of sand out of there and dig down in that hole and really get a good swabbing of the inside of that to see if there is any residue down inside there. But unfortunately, every time that I've been out there, because if you go under special permission, official, and everybody knows in Egypt you can do official and you can do wink wink unofficial.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every time I've been out there has been an official special permission, and the guards and the security people watch every little move that you make. So I haven't had a chance to be able to go out there and dig this trench out, but every time I go, someone has been doing it. The first time I went out there, the big bowl, like the collection bowl, was almost completely filled with sand. But the last tour, I host tours for my YouTube channel and for my book. So I always take my tour guests out to Abusir. And the last time that we were out there, someone had dug all of the sand out of the collection bowl.
Oh, I see.
So someone has been doing it, but I've never had a chance to do it myself. And
But it has a back door. You can go always from the back side. With
oh,
no
I know. Yeah. There's multiple ways to get out there.
This temple, like on the side of the complex, so nobody watching where.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's been known to happen. So are you familiar with the pyramid of well, it's not a pyramid, the Solar Temple of Abu Gorab?
Yes, this one, yeah, of course.
Yeah, with the big calcite bowls with the
yes.
everyone says that they're gears. It's not a gear, it just kind of
No,
looks
of course
like
not
that.
gear.
Yeah. So did you know that, in the crags of those calcite bowls, they've also discovered green copper oxide down inside of those bowls, like
No,
huge
because
lumps.
of course it was how we produce it. Of course, it's marks of tools.
So the unique thing about the alabaster bowls at Abusir, there's actually a big lump. So it's not just green on the surface. We found a big lump of what looks like melted copper oxide, like a big lump of it
Yeah.
inside one of these little things. So I'm not sure that that's from the tools. I think there might have been a copper basin that was inside of that thing.
No, maybe, but we don't know what we used for. It's very interesting structure, and we don't know how water get in where with this altar in the center. It looks like fontaine actually, like the water was going from this spot to outside.
And so your colleagues have sent me, again, if anyone isn't familiar with the ISIDA Project, I highly recommend checking out the ISIDA Project website. And they have a huge database of research, pictures, and all sorts of measurements and data that was collected over this 3-year research project for basically any and every structure that you could possibly be interested in Egypt. And the artifact that we're talking about now is called the altar at the pyramid, or the Solar Temple of Abu Gorab in Abusir. And they did seismographic readings of this altar. Specifically, there's a circular piece in the center of the altar that looks like a plug. And they did seismographic testing on this plug that shows vibrations coming from below the surface, which is indicative of possibly water movement, like some sort of aquifer or spring that's directly below this altar that has this circular plug in the center. So it's a very bizarre artifact at the Solar Temple of Abu Gorab. And these big bowls, they have a hole drilled into the side of the bowl. But the hole isn't at the bottom and it's not at the top. It's about a quarter of the way up the side of the bowl, which so clearly it's not for drainage purposes, because if it was a drainage hole, it would be coming out of the bottom so that whatever was in there could completely drain out. So we don't know exactly what the purpose of these holes drilled into these artifacts. And there's actually 2 different types of bowls. There's a set that are made from limestone and a set that are made of white calcite, crystal, or alabaster. And the limestone bowls have 3 different inlet holes. There's a hole going in straight, and then there's 2 curved ones on each side. So they have 3 holes right near the lip. But the calcite ones have a very large hole about a quarter of the way up into the bowl. So there's 2 different types of these bowl artifacts at this Solar Temple at Abu Gorab, which, again, it's not a pyramid. It used to have a huge obelisk coming out of the top of the structure. And Abu Gorab,
we actually don't know what it has.
Yeah. So that's what they say. The reconstruction said that there was maybe like a mastaba-like platform and then the top may have been an obelisk. There, if you were to go there today, there's absolutely nothing. So we don't know exactly what was there, but archaeologists have claimed that there was originally a huge obelisk coming out of the top of this mastaba platform. That's one of my favorite sites in Egypt. Not a lot of people get to go out there.
Because it's only two objects like this. It's with Niuserre temple and again Userkaf temple, which is completely ruined, nothing left.
Yeah, yeah.
And but only granite blocks with holes from Userkaf temple, Userkaf Sun temple.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Userkaf, like you can't even. So when we were last out there, you know how it works. If there's nobody around, you can just go walk over there and you walk around, and if nobody says anything, it's good to go. But technically speaking, the entire pyramid of Userkaf is an off limits area. So people
Yep.
can't even go explore the. So when you go to Saqqara, you can go up the causeway to the Pyramid of Niuserre. They now have the southern tomb is open, the one with the big granite box with the plug in it.
Yes, 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 yes. The second shaft.
The second shaft, yeah. So that's open to the public now, and you can pay extra money to get into the step pyramid. The Pyramid of Teti is open, and then you can go into the Serapeum, or however people pronounce it.
Yeah. And the Userkaf pyramid, it's right here. Everyone passing it when go to Saqqara.
Yep.
It's right here, and nobody coming in.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really it's unfortunate and a little bit sad to me because it's one of my favorite structures. It's so the inside. So if I go back to this picture here, there's more to talk about the inside. Let me share this again. Because there is a lot of destruction on the walls inside of the chamber. So again, can you see this picture?
Yes, I can see it perfectly.
Yeah, so there, this housing in the back of the wall here, something was in here that has been removed. You can see the chisel marks where they went in here and popped something out of here. Over here on this wall, there are two slots in the wall where this entire area has also been destroyed. And then here on the right side, it basically looks the same as this over here on the right side. That has also been basically completely destroyed, where there was possibly something stuck in there. We don't know what it was. Was it a statue? Was it a metal artifact? Anytime I see this, I tend to think it was something metal that was stuck in there, because it had to be valuable enough for them to want to go and pop it out of there and take it out.
Oh, we don't know what it was used for.
Yeah, exactly.
And when, because it may be reusing few times,
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's the thing that people have to understand, that these pyramids have been around for thousands of years. Whether you believe in the conventional date or if you think that they're older than that, either way, people have been going in and out of these things for thousands of years. And if there was anything valuable in there, it would have been taken over and over again, whether it be the Greeks or the Romans or, the Persians or whoever, because there's also evidence that the Persians did a lot of construction and excavations at Saqqara. They have these things called the Persian tombs, which are these big vertical shafts near the Pyramid of Niuserre. And the main entrance that you use today to go into the step pyramid is also said to have been excavated by the Persians. They call it the Persian shaft that leads into the step pyramid. So this site has been inhabited, and they quarried stones out of here, and they took anything of value for thousands and thousands of years. So we don't know who did it, what it was, when it was taken, or what it was originally.
We know. About this we know, because during this Persian period and Sais period, it was a museum.
A museum, yeah.
Very constructed with Saqqara complex, Djoser pyramid, and underground structure in the first museum in human history, actually. And we collected money. You know, I'm linking it. Ancient Egypt never knew money. Money started exactly at this time. So when we first got money, we start collected money to entrance.
So we know that the hundreds of millions of years ago, the limestone bedrock of the Giza Plateau was the bottom of an ocean called the Tethys Sea. This is how the bedrock limestone was formed. And that's why there's a bunch of shells and fossils embedded in the limestone bedrock of the Giza Plateau. And it appears that these metal deposits all over the Giza Plateau are what is called hydrothermal mineralization deposits, where these hydrothermal vent systems are pushing out metal deposits, and they deposit into the limestone strata of the bedrock. And when that sea receded, again, we're talking about hundreds of millions of years ago, that created the limestone bedrock foundation of the Giza Plateau that is now permeated with all of these hydrothermal mineral veins. And it's mostly iron, but it has a vast array of other, there's evidence of gold, silver, all sorts of rare earth minerals and metals like neodymium. There's platinum that we've discovered in there. So the chemical analysis has revealed that there's all sorts of different types of metal in this vein network on the Giza Plateau. And they appear to be very, very ancient hydrothermal mineral deposits.
No way, not very ancient. It's not millions here. Yes, you're talking about this ocean, but these mineralization structures were like 10, 12,000 years ago, because people made research on these things, and it shows it's not going from the deep, it's going from the top. The water leaking in the cracks in the limestone, and year by year it's collect iron. This is how it happened, and it's not that old like limestone itself.
So say that one more time, because this is a keen area of interest for me. So explain that one more time from a geological formation standpoint, because I want to try to wrap my head around that.
It looks like it was something iron on the top, on the surface.
Yeah.
Like 12,000 years ago. It was left over there under rains, and it was melting, and this water, mineralized with iron, was leaking.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the cracks.
Okay. Yeah.
And
so I will agree that, so I have done a whole series where I've documented and made video of these iron veins, and everyone says that it used to be metal, like it was something metal that was there.
It's absolutely, because it was few chemical analysis of these structures, and it shows it's metal. It contains nickel and chrome.
Yep.
So
so the sample he's talking about, they discovered a fragment. It's literally almost pure chrome, and it looks like it. Again, if you took some chrome off somebody's bumper, it's like an 87 or 88% chrome fragment that was discovered in this. I was just recently looking at all that data for a new episode, and again, you name the metal
chrome
discovered in these chemical deposits.
If you find iron with nickel, it's maybe meteorite or something. But chrome, it's technological stuff. You can't make steel without chrome. If you see chrome, it means it was steel. It was not iron. So, and there is radiocarbon data that shows it's like some pieces of 10,000 years, some pieces of 12,000 years in this thing. So it shows it wasn't from underneath plateau. It was leaking from the surface.
So then how do you explain? So have you been down in the Osiris shaft?
No, I have not been there before, but I saw a lot of videos from there.
Yeah. So these iron veins, they continue all the way down through the bedrock, and the iron veins actually meet into the Osiris shaft. There are huge chunks of these iron veins through the housings on the second level of the Osiris shaft. It's a
Yes.
bizarre configuration. So these veins do go deep into the Giza plateau, and they
Yes,
go down
because it was cracks in the plateau and water was leaking inside. I saw the chemical analysis exactly what you're talking about from Osiris shaft. What
Yeah.
we found over there. It's again, I'm telling you, chrome, nickel, iron, oh, and you know, leftovers, but small amount. So mainly for me, it's steel. It's not iron. It's steel.
So a lot of people have said that these are ancient wires.
No, it's not wires.
And what do you think it is?
No, I don't know. I can tell you only what analysis say. Yeah, so
Right. Yeah.
I see analysis say it was steel. It's point blank. How to explain? I don't know.
So I haven't seen the dating.
We can say what it was and how long ago.
So can I say the name of our other colleague?
No, I
Our-
can send you the analysis, and I'm gonna ask them. You know,
yeah, yeah. I
people
just don't
don't
know if she
want.
wants her name out in the public, but we have a mutual colleague that has sent me all of this chemical analysis data, and I haven't seen the one with the dating on it yet. I'd be interested to take a look at that.
You know, a lot of people working on this, and you know,
Yeah.
they take pieces with no permission. They don't want
Oh, I
be public.
know.
Yeah, but still, that is objective, so you can see what is it.
Awesome.
And
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see that.
for me, it looks like it was a steel. It was steel. And steel, what we use steel for? We use steel for different construction, like for crane, for different machines, engines, stuff like this. It's not iron. It's very hard. So I don't know what it could be.
Interesting. So do you think the pits that have all of those iron deposits were maybe housing for equipment?
No, it was maybe equipment on the surface, but
Yeah,
it's
that's what I'm
melted.
saying. It's like, yeah, so like scaffolding and other pieces of structure.
Scaffolding, crane. I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
A lot of
interesting. Okay.
steel on the Giza plateau, and it just melted with rains for thousands and thousands
Thousands
of
of years.
years.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Interesting.
You know, if you leave a car on the street for 20 years, it's gonna melt,
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah.
and the water gonna leak
Especially in
somewhere.
Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
So
see metal tanks all the time, where these, metal tanks are left out and they can't be more than, maybe 30 years old. And the metal tank has completely turned into iron oxide, rust, and dust.
yes,
Anything
yes.
metal will disappear in the desert in 20 or 30 years, let alone thousands of years since these things have been built.
Of course, chrome still gonna take a little longer, but it's still gonna melt and drain down to these cracks in the plateau. This is what's happened, I think. But what it was, we don't know, of course.
And that's another interesting point is that in the lowest portions, so like in the bottom of the pits, they've discovered the heavier elements like gold. All the fragments of gold were discovered in the lowest samples. So that, obviously alluvial gold, everything kind of settles at the
Because
bottom.
the gold, the heaviest element. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's of course it's always gonna go down.